Listeners everywhere, welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
That's right. Happy holidays, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Here it is. Welcome to the movie show with Joel and Ryan and Shauna and the North Pole. It is everything that you ever wanted for Christmas. It's the movie show with Joel and Ryan. Hi, everybody.
It's
I'm
winter
Joel.
wonderland here in the greater Twin Cities area this morning.
It really is. Yes, we did. We got a good chunk of snow. It was glorious. And we are ready to talk about some movies because you know what? You know what I didn't queue up? Okay, well, hi everybody. Welcome to Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. I'm Joel.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Shauna.
And Shauna's back because, of course, it is movie club time.
The first rule of movie club is you talk about movie club. The second rule of movie club is you talk about movie club.
That's right. You talk about movie club. That's the first rule. And we are talking about movie club. It's that time of year. Now, let's see, last year, what were the movies last year again? I know there was Prancer. Boy, do I know there was Prancer. What else did we?
Scrooged.
And Scrooged, yeah. And
Prancer and
if only I looked this up. Do you remember, Shauna, what that last movie was?
it was a whole year ago, man.
Yeah, I don't.
It must have been the good one, though, because there wasn't a super ton of love going around for Prancer or Scrooged, if memory serves.
Right.
Yeah. But I can't remember what it was. All right. Well, I'll have to go through the archives and see what's going on with that.
It was one other famous holiday movie from kind of that era that none of us had seen. The idea last year was to watch ones we hadn't seen, although you had seen Scrooge, Joel. Most people have. I think it was kind of crazy that neither Shauna and I had ever seen that because it's such a 80s kid staple movie, but we hadn't, for whatever reason. Bill Murray movie, Richard Donner movie I hadn't seen. That's the only one really, probably for both of them.
Ooh, I found the
I guess I'm
rundown
a bit of a humbug.
Here it is. Okay. Let's see. Just quick downloading here. It was Prancer, Scrooged, and The Ref.
Oh yeah, The Ref, the good one.
Yeah.
The good one.
The Ref is good, folks. If you want a really different sort of holiday movie vibe, but it is nevertheless totally a holiday movie, check out the late Ted Demme's The Ref with Dennis Leary and Kevin Spacey. I know it sounds horrible, but it's great. You really should check it out.
Yeah, it's that one. That one's fun. But this year we are doing. We are not talking about Christmas specific movies. These are movies that have Christmas elements in them. And
holiday elements.
Holiday elements. Yeah, one of them isn't really Christmas, but one of them is holiday.
We won't reveal the holiday yet, but it has a great holiday scene in it, but it's not so Christmassy.
But yeah, so we'll get to that in just a minute, but let's catch up with Shauna because we haven't seen Shauna for a hot tick here. How you been?
Been a bit.
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Pretty
Oh,
good.
you know, living the dream. We're doing podcasts, and
Yeah, we do
and
one every week. You know, we get together even when you're not here. I don't know if you know that, but
That's a big movie podcast schedule.
this
And
is special
literally-
because we have you here, and this is our last show of the year, traditionally,
Yep.
and it's neat to have you back. Is it what's it like in Ohio? Is it nice?
It is about 55 degrees, and it rained most of last night and a little bit this morning, and it's blue skies and kind of balmy.
Yeah, it's balmy out now too. We're supposed to get up to 50 degrees this week, but Joel and I got 6 to 8-ish inches last night, but like down by the airport, they got 12, 16, like a ton. So we were right on the edge of this big storm that just was rain for you guys. Oh, it's kind of cool. Tell us, I recognize the pin from last year, but the hat is different. But remind us what the pin is, because it's kind of neat.
It was my grandma's.
Yeah.
She passed it on to me. So I don't really have holiday hats. I don't know. I never see them anywhere.
Would you buy them if you did? I mean,
for the show I would have, but I didn't. I just don't shop as much anymore.
And of course, Shauna's grandma, in case you don't remember, Shauna's grandma is, of course, Mrs. Claus. So that's why it makes sense that she's wearing that for this.
That's awesome. 2 degrees of 1 degree of separation. That's just 2 for us from Mrs. Claus. Then I
correct.
I also have little tree earrings on. I don't know if you can see them.
Oh, that's fun.
It's a good look.
If I had a
I
Zoom,
wanted antlers. I am repeating myself from last year, but nobody remembers last year but me anyway. So, I wanted antlers, and I ordered them, and what I got was antenna with reindeer with antlers on top of them, which is not what I wanted. And I really
antlers
hate
on
this
antlers.
hat,
yeah,
and it annoys me, but it's all I have. So I also wore a scarf because
that would have been good. I could have done that. I of course am rocking my festive holiday movie show background, and my purple Minnesota Viking Santa hat. Because that's what I had, and it's festive. It's holiday.
Circa 2007 or whatever.
Something-ish, yeah.
2006.
Yeah, somewhere around there. It's seen many Christmases at this point. The
official movie show with Joel and Ryan Christmas card photo features that hat.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. All right. So is everyone? How does everyone feel about the holidays? Is everyone excited about the holidays? Stressed out about the holidays? How does everyone do during the holidays here?
I like the holidays. I always have liked them a lot. Although I admit it, as I get older, and certainly in the COVID era, they've been kind of lonely and present all kinds of weird challenges that we don't really need to get into. Everybody knows about those, but I still like them. I like when the commercials start, around Thanksgiving. I like holiday commercials. Are stupid, but they're like nice and friendly, and they try and make you feel good, which I feel like we get bombarded with such cynical, awful, like mean-spirited punchliney stuff all year long, that like, oh, look, that cat likes Christmas, and that person remembers that other person, and blah blah blah. It's like, good. I like that. I'm not cynical about that good feeling vibe that you get. I enjoy it, and I like the lights, and it's pretty. I like the snow. We got this big snow, and when this same snow comes in February, and I'm just gonna curse it all night long in my sleep. But last night I was like, yay, white Christmas, maybe.
And it was this was for a first major snowfall of the year. This was a great major snowfall. At least in our area, we didn't get hit nearly as hard, and it's light, fluffy, beautiful snow. Everything is delightfully flocked.
Yeah, it's great snowman snow. It's not going to hang around for very long, I don't think.
Yeah.
So that's just generically how I feel about them. That's why we do a holiday show around here, because I think it's neat and
Yep.
want to get dressed up and I'm not going to sing a carol or anything, but there you go.
Well, that's maybe that'll be its own. Maybe if we last to year 5, if we make it to Christmas year 5 of the podcast,
that could be a good idea for your 4th movie show TikTok. You've sort of not been keeping up with that lately.
Yeah, it's because everything has been sort of kind of bonkers busy, but our
TikTok
what I think
fans are crying out. They want content. They demand it now.
You're right. I got spoiled with the Aliens episodes and my what was it Drake and Vasquez dolls that that were able, that was I was spoiled for content there.
Plus, those TikTok fans were showing up for Aliens. They weren't really showing up for us. That's always a hard lesson to learn. You think you're Mr. Popular there for a while, but turns out people just really love the Alien movies. Not so much Joel and Ryan. We're just passing through. TikTok wise.
Yep. TikTok wise. All right. Yeah. What about you, Shauna? Are you guys doing anything fun for the holidays? Is it a good time of year? Is it a tough time of year?
It's good. We're having Jimmy's, my husband's mother, over for Christmas dinner on Christmas, and that'll be nice. She's moving to Indiana after the holidays from Cleveland, so it's emotional but exciting and good, and Jimmy lost his father last year in January, so it's emotional too, but good.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty quiet, we just kind of hunker down and eat, have a fire. But it's
and the Beagles, do they like Christmas? Pretty exciting.
Yes. Yep, because they get stockings too. So treats for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. We used to buy, I think my folks bought my dog a bone once a year, and it was at Christmas, and they would wrap it and it would just sort of slowly take it apart. It was the funnest thing to watch. Obviously, dog people here, I could just watch a dog like just drinking water, because they get so into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's awesome. They're so passionate about water.
It's funny.
What?
And odd, but my boy beagle Rudy, he has he laps water in a pattern.
Oh yeah.
Of 3s. So lap, 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 pause, lap, 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 pause. And it's so funny. Posey
awesome.
Is all over the place, but I'm like, my boy dog laps in Morse code.
That is awesome. That's an awesome dog trivia, because dogs are awesome. I don't know. Any dogs in our movies coming up here? Oh, yep.
Yeah. In fact, I was gonna lean in and go, hey, Shauna, that's a nice dog you got there. That's a nice dog you got there. Anyway,
sorry about that.
I think I've shared this. I'm sure I have it somewhere in our 4 years here. The holidays used to be a very tough time for me. I used to have a very hard time, very stressed out time. It wasn't until I was I got to be in the Guthrie Theater's traditional production of a Christmas Carol, that being part of something and seeing the audience every night and getting to do that show. I mean, and that show, you pretty much, we're doing 9-10 shows a week of that. So it was a lot of being at the theater, and a lot of kids in the casts and stuff. And so getting to be a part of that, seeing it through those kids' eyes, seeing it through my own son's eyes when he started to really get into Christmas, that it really turned me around, and now I really love it. It's
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super fun.
That's what Dickens would have wanted, mate.
Yeah. I mean, I really do. it's really I remember taking the when I was offered the part, and it was very exciting, and I remember going, well, I don't, this will be fun. It'll be nice to have a distraction. It'll be nice to have something to do during the holidays.
Nice to get
normally
the paycheck coming in.
Yeah. It'll be good. And so I'm like, yeah, and this will be fine. It'll just, give me something to focus on instead of how the holidays usually stress me out. And it ended up just making me just absolutely love Christmas and the holidays.
And you're not going to say it apparently, but you played most of that time. You kind of had various things that you did with Christmas Carol, but mostly you played Ghost of Christmas Present.
Right.
And Ghost of Christmas Present is special.
Yeah.
Truly. That to me, that's I don't want to say it's the heart of Christmas Carol, because that all sort of comes later, but he brings the wood, I mean, all the ghosts sort of rough Scrooge up a little bit, but that speech, that classism speech, that the harshness of the world, these two children, it's Dickens' rage at injustice that's coming out, and it's really, really powerful. It still is to me. There's that passage, you probably know it by heart, but I love it. I really do love it. Again, that's another thing where the Christmas Carol is part of Christmas in a very ingrained way. And I'm grateful for that, because there's real meat in that story, truly. And every time somebody does it, when the Simpsons do it, when Happy Days does it, when everybody does their version of it, and it even if you try to avoid it, you can't help but get meaning in there because of the way that story is. And I love it for that reason. I really do.
I love it. It was a great time. And it was a great way to spend the holidays. And so it's a good time. And, and we're lucky we have family all living nearby. And so we'll be able to get together with them, and it'll be a good time. All right. Well, maybe we should jump into a little bit of movie club. No, I won't do it again.
Never. You can never do it too many times.
Okay, well, here we go. All right, let's jump into it proper.
Isn't this the shorter version than the original version anyway?
Oh, very much so.
Slightly edited?
Very much so.
Okay. I don't want to hear the 9-minute super mega mix version of it ever again. But you can play that little he only says it twice version anytime you want, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. It is a movie club Christmas, and it is time to get it going.
The first rule of movie club is you talk about movie club. The second rule of movie club is you talk about movie club.
That's right. So like we said, these are movies that we chose 3 movies that hopefully most of us hadn't, a majority of us have not seen. And they have some sort of Christmas tie-in, or I should say holiday season tie-in, but they're not Christmas movies, but they have some sort of holiday element to them. And the first movie up is the 2002, based on a book by Nick Hornby movie, directed by the Weitz brothers, about a boy, with Hugh Grant and Toni Collette and Rachel Weisz and a young Nicholas Hoult before he became, I guess, Beast and all these other things that he eventually.
Mad Max Fury Road, man, that's my favorite.
Yeah, Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, that's
I love him in that. I didn't know this was Nick Hornby, or I would have watched this long ago. I guess that was advantageous for the show because I'd never seen it, because I just thought, Hugh Grant, like Love Actually sort of soils me on Hugh Grant. Not that I dislike him, but just like you dude, you really truly can't be trusted. You're in a lot of really terrible garbage, and maybe you might elevate that, you know what I mean? Because you're a pretty good actor, but this was a neat role for him. Nick's really great. I think of all the Nick Hornby movie adaptations I've seen, this is still probably my least favorite.
Oh yeah,
because I think Nick's really profound writer, and this feels like I don't know what it is, but it feels like a kind of early thing of his. But I still loved it. I loved his perspective on life, and I love how, you know, I mean, I'm sort of just took this over, but I was just excited to talk about this because I really enjoyed it. I love how his characters, and this is for all of his characters, whether they start out really innocent and admirable, or whether they're just this, like Hugh is in this film, this well-worn, cynical, sort of selfish guy. But it's not. You still like spending time with him because of his wit, because his observations on life, while kind of on the dark, sad side, are still fairly have some wisdom to them, I guess, if that makes any sense. But it's mostly because of his wit. It's funny what you can get away with if you're clever and witty and charming. Like, you can really be, as this movie proves, a pretty self-serving, you know, douchebag, and will root for you. And that's what I loved most about it was, and yet he didn't make him this evil, awful person like Scrooge who needed to be redeemed. The film's much more subtle and more human than that, which is the other thing that's wonderful about it. The people come in and out, and they start out as these foils for him, but they evolve into real living, breathing people before our eyes. So by the time we're spending the holidays with them in a super, super pivotal scene for everybody involved, like it and even that, like, not in the most obvious way, you know. It's not like the holiday confrontation. It's weirder and sloppier and clumsier than that, and that's what's wonderful about it. It's what feels true about it. So
yeah,
I love Nick, and I thank you for suggesting this movie and sticking with it, because it was good.
Yeah, I'm a big about it. I loved the book. I love, you know, I Nick Hornby's one of my favorite authors, and so I loved I loved this adaptation of the book. It's a pretty faithful adaptation.
It's an abbreviation more than
it's an abbreviation. Yeah, it's just the beats are all pretty much the same. I'm a big fan of this movie. This is a movie that gets watched for me usually at least once a year. It's really great. I just a real, real quick plot synopsis, and then I want to get to Shauna and her thoughts on the film. Hugh Grant plays a guy who doesn't have to work for a living because he lives off of the royalties of a Christmas song his dad wrote. So he has a beautiful London flat, drives a fancy Audi, I think, fancy car. And
he's not an absurdly rich guy, but he lives a very comfortable, like lawyers, sort of doctor's income life without having to do a single thing to earn it.
Yep.
And that's conveyed in a very believable and kind of interesting way.
Yep. And then on the flip side, you have Toni Collette's character, she's the mother to Nick Holt, and Nick Holt's character, and Marcus, and her character, Toni Collette's character, is a very much a free spirit, kind of quasi hippie-ish, but also suffers from crippling depression. And of course that is going to affect this teenage boy as well, and how he adapts to the world as he's growing up. Hugh Grant's character joins a single parents alone together group to meet chicks, to meet women, single women.
And in his defense, he doesn't just plan this, talking about Movie Club, right? Or the Fight Club clip. It's very similar to that idea. Or that idea where they go to all these self-help groups early in the story just to get emotionally fulfilled by pretending, for the attention. He is introduced to a divorcee with a pair of kids, I want to say, or at least a kid, who he goes through this whole relationship with them, and right at the time where he's about to break up with them, they break up with him first. and let him completely off the hook. And he realizes that these divorced single parents, like, it's all kind of hot and straight to the business, and it's all whatever. And in the end, they have, like, you're not the thing that they're into. They have all these other responsibilities and things they care about in their life. So the big appeal is that they're easy to escape from relative to what he's used to. So his idea is so he comes to this ring like, yeah, divorced women, that's the new thing. That's my new deal. But how do I meet them? You know, I was set up on this. And he sees a sign, right? Hanging in a window somewhere. It says, what's the group called?
SPAT. Single parents alone together. Single parents alone together. And so he goes there, and of course he goes in there, and then they're like, tell us about your child. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And so he comes up with this fake child that he has to have so he can attend these groups. And that's how
perfect 2.5-year-old child who speaks in complete sentences and is very attuned to pop culture and psychology.
Yeah, when he's reflecting about his son, you know, he's supposed to be this toddler baby, and he's speaking, you know, he's telling his father profound sentence.
It's my favorite thing is like, that's amazing for a 2.5-year-old, and huge little, is it?
Yep. So yeah, and through, you know, so through this group, that's how he and Toni Collette's their paths cross. He meets Toni Collette's son Marcus, and a strange bond starts to develop between Will and Marcus, and this guy, you know, I don't want to get, you know, we're going to try to do these pretty spoiler free, so, you know, but what I think I can say is Will's Hugh Grant's character's very isolated, as he says, his you know, all, you know, he is an island, his very singular lifestyle. He starts to, that, you know, that idea starts to fall apart a little bit, and creating and through this relationship with this young man, and the connection that they have with is kind of seeing, they're both kind of do some growing up, and Will's island becomes a little bit more populated, and
a lot of voiceovers, you know, but the Grant's character definitely has a ton of voiceovers, but Holt's character has voiceovers too. I think they're the only two. Maybe you know, the movie's kind of told, and as is the book, it's told, you know, from dueling first person, you know, characters will go. But it has this great, which is in a lot of Nick's work. I only know the screen work. You all know I don't read much. I'm too busy watching movies. But there's this thing where there's this, and Joel maybe can back me up on this. He's read more, but in the films, these moments where they have these ideas, it's really, really interesting. Where a character like Grant's idea about divorced women, like that, and how he kind of works it all through. And Nick's character has a similar one that is really lovely, I bet, just as a piece of prose. But it's the problem is there's only two of us. It's just me and my mom. It's like, this is a numbers game, and it can be fixed by adding what he says is a third person. I think you need at least 3 people. 3 is the minimum. And then, you know, then I cannot be here all the time, and somebody else will be around to watch over my mom. It's this simple idea that ends up being a profound and specific thing by the time the movie's over. But I love the way it's, because this is across these films that I've seen where they kind of, you get them, and then they're sorting it all out. And I always think that's neat. So
yeah, and it's definitely a plan. A plan is hatched, and it's the magic of a plan sort of going awry where the growth really happens. And it's really great. I would love to hear Shauna's thoughts about a buoy.
Really quick, I don't know if you heard kind of a boom, and I looked, we're having a windstorm, so
Oh,
If a tree falls on our house, I might need to leave.
If we hear sirens and you run away, we'll know
yeah.
why.
Well, and we'll be able to answer that age-old question. If a tree falls on a podcast, does it make a sound?
Right.
Does it get more listeners?
Right. The excitement. I might bring my computer along with and show you guys.
There you go. Oh man, action.
Right.
Action podcast.
So, yes. You never know what you're going to get when I join you guys. About a boy. I really liked it as well. It's funny because the story, there's parts that are kind of improbable, which for me, I don't always have a lot of patience for. But kind of what you were talking about Hugh Grant's wit, and that also kind of smooths those a little bit in a way, so I can kind of let that go and still enjoy it. But I really liked the boy's character, Marcus. He was very real and deep. It brought a very realness to this movie where Hugh Grant is kind of frivolous and witty, but no responsibilities. He doesn't have to consider anybody else in his life. He's made it that way, and very superficial, with other people. And I don't want to spoil anything, but through Marcus's relationship with his mother, and as he and Hugh Grant's character start to get to know each other, they let each other kind of into each other's worlds. And Marcus is all consumed with his mother's depression. And Hugh Grant has never seen anything like this. He's never experienced it. And I just feel like the way that they explored that, and both characters grew, because I feel like Hugh Grant's character also showed the boy, like, okay, you know what? You can't be completely consumed with this either, so it was almost like how they both taught them how to kind of meet in the middle for the betterment of both of them. And I thought Toni Collette did a great job being a complete mess.
Yeah, it's one of my really good. It's one of, to me, as a person who has had a diagnosis of depression for 20 some years, mine has never become that bad, but it's a really accurate representation, I think, of depression, where it's not you're just sad all the time.
Right.
You have stretches of normalcy. I mean, there's a manic depressive, that is a type of depression where you're just like up and everything, and then you crash, and it's really, really hard. But for the most part, it's you can function most of the time and everything's good, and then you just have these unexpected really huge bouts of sadness and despair and everything, and I just thought that those are really, I've always thought that it at least to me, it's always felt really pretty accurately portrayed in terms of how depression is portrayed in a film.
The symptoms of it and the presentation of it. And also, I think they did a really good job of showing that when somebody that has depression like that and they're functioning, normally, everybody's just waiting for the next episode to happen.
Yes.
So, you're not just like, oh, okay.
Oh, we made it through that. It's
everybody's worrying about it. The person that has depression, everybody that lives with that person and loves that person and worries about that person is just waiting. When is the next episode, and how bad is it going to be? And
of course,
and I think I really liked the relationship between Toni Collette and Marcus, and how they came to talk about it. Because in the beginning, they didn't really, but as the show went on, their relationship, part of that they really kind of dove into that and showing how a parent with depression could talk to their child and try to deal with it, you know?
Yeah, because of course, you know, at the beginning we get, you know, it's a parent who doesn't want to burden their child with talking about it. You know, it's like trying to keep it from, and then and without recognizing that maybe the child is old enough to understand it, and because already, you know, Marcus is trying to take steps to fix, to because of course he sees his mom, he sees Fiona in pain, and he wants to, you know, like any good kid, he just wants to fix it and help and do what he can. Oh, it's just,
there's a very, it's a sort of a symptom of narcissism, but it's really just a symptom of having a big ego that Hugh Grant's character has throughout the movie, where it's everything is the worst ever. I'm the worst this, that was the worst this. Like, you know, it's in a weird reverse way, you have to think a lot of yourself to think that something you did was the worst thing that was ever done, even if it was bad. Mm-hmm. And there's this moment where he's, again, very clumsily, but with good intentions, comes to meet her at one of these meetings fairly late in the movie. Without spoiling all of it, the context of it, she pulls him aside. Everybody at the meeting remembers him. They all know he's a liar now. Like, the whole thing's super uncomfortable.
Oh, it's so great.
It's really wonderful, but without spoiling the really funny, awesome moment in that, I'll skip past that to get to the moment that really resonated with me, which was, he's like, so I'm just doing everything wrong. And okay, I admit it. And she's like, you're not doing everything wrong. You're here. That's a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. And it's let go there. They don't dwell on that moment, but it stuck with me. You showed up. You're giving it a try.
It was, you know, so good that they let it go. You know, they didn't.
Yeah, they don't. But anything. It still jumped out at me as a highlight of the sort of lesson of the movie. Which, you know, the movie's not too preachy, but you're you know, this what it can't be the worst thing ever, because you're here and you're trying. And I just feel like that's something we can all take a little comfort in, that idea. And that at minimum is what we should all try and be for the people that we care about, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really great. We haven't talked at all about Rachel Weisz's character, and the holiday element of it.
I know you're a big Rachel Weisz fan. I am too, but you don't really need it. She's not.
I love her so much. Anyway,
she's great, and she's good in this. She has to be, because she's brought in a novella area of the film. Like, in a proper movie, she needs to be a part of this thing way earlier for it to be meaningful. And that's one place where it's not bad. It's one place where structurally it sort of falls down a little bit. We don't spend a lot of time with her. We don't have enough time to get invested in a third complex relationship. So it ends up not being a complex relationship. Yep. But she does thematically represent something important, which is he, despite himself, and this is kind of how it happens, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but you just find yourself really into that one person, and it's hard. You can make a list of their pros and cons and think about what the qualities of them that you love, but it sort of happens to you, you know, in this strange way. He's obviously been attracted to people. He's trying to have relationships. So the guy who likes to be on his own, the whole movie starts with this idea that at least he wants to be around people and, you know, wants to get lucky occasionally, if nothing else. She does something else to him, and it's neat. It's kind of cool. I feel like it's repeated though. He's got to come clean with her. He's got to be honest with her. Like, he's already done all this stuff with these other characters at this point.
Right.
But not completely though. I mean,
yeah, maybe not.
With the woman, the first single parent woman, he didn't come clean with her.
No.
Really. You know, he didn't say, I don't actually have a child. You know,
and isn't it her that where the big confrontation at the Christmas scene that we haven't even really talked about happens, right? She comes in, they're having actually a awkward but decent enough Christmas, above the median in terms of Christmas quality. And she comes into it, and he's not come clean with her. This is the first time they're facing off where the truth is between them, and they've not seen each other. And he he kind of does the right thing. He apologizes. This is what I would do. He apologizes. He tries to extricate himself from the situation to bring the peace back to the Christmas holiday. And it's Nick, right, that steps in and says, Nicholas, what's his character's
Marcus,
name?
Yeah, Marcus.
Marcus.
Yeah.
He's the one that says, hey, he's like, no, your mom's right. She's right. She's like, that's right. She deserves to be upset. She says that like 3 times in the scene. And he's like, well, whatever. I invited him and he's staying. Like he puts his foot down in this great way. And then the scene goes on long enough that somebody says something funny. I don't even remember what it is, but they all laugh at it. And they can go on with their Christmas together. And there's more to that scene than that moment, but that's the big moment that we shouldn't let about a boy slip by without mentioning that Marcus sort of demands that he not run away in that moment. And like I said, I don't even think running away is a bad choice, but
and
it's a rite of passage for a kid to finally say, here's the thing, I want this nurtures me, and you're all just going to have to tolerate it, whether you have a right to be mad or not. And they do, and that's cool. That's family.
Yep. And there's also, and it's also a great scene because you're watching Marcus open these, they're not exciting gifts.
No.
But Marcus is opening them as if they're, and he's receiving them with just the utmost joy and the that wonderful spirit of receiving a gift from someone you love, and that someone has at least put a little bit of thought into it and has given you something that and Will is watching this just sort of in awe of him just being able to go,
because he's got 2 or 3 of the greatest kid gifts you could possibly bring. Like and from a gift quality standpoint, he nails it, but you never even see him open his gifts. He like says what they are. I don't know if that means anything, but they show him opening these sort of, and it's neat. His left to his own devices, if this kid wasn't bullied all the time, if he wasn't worried all the time, and he takes the bullying in stride. It's not a movie about the trauma of being having candy thrown at you at school or whatever, but he gets bullied every day. Even the kids who like hanging out with him have to say, hey mate, sorry, before we hung out with you, we were kind of doing okay, and now we get bullied all the time because they're bullying you, and we're gonna have to call this quits. And he's like, he's all kind of like, he's sad, but he's kind of understanding about it. It's sad without being too heavy-handed, and the bullies are mean without being evil. It is interesting. It's tonally, that whole section is interesting, and I kind of dig it.
It's a fun, it's a fun movie. It's got there's a lot to it, and a lot
of talk, and there's a lot of great stuff in the talk, and that I love a movie like that. I really do. I like a movie where there's no talk and you got to figure it all out, puzzle it together. That's neat too, but I don't watch enough of the talky ones, and I think it's because the trailers are always super talky and they always sound bitey, and I think that turns me off. But this movie's really well written. Nick's a really, really good writer, and it's directed by Chris Weitz and his brother, and they're pretty talented guys, and it's neat.
Yep. Decent soundtrack by Badly Drawn Boy. Yep. Sorry, go ahead, Shauna.
Your point about talky movies, I don't usually like those either, for the same reason. You see the trailer, and I think I always think, oh, they're showing the best parts, the best, and with this one, it's not like that at all. It's talky through the whole thing, but it's meaningful and it's real and, witty and sad and, angry. It just kind of, the way they move through the movie is very natural, the talk. And and there are certain points that are just really quite brilliant, that you really laugh or you really feel about it, but it's, I don't know, it's not like your typical talky movie to be talky.
Right. And even the profound moments, like you mentioned, aren't they're not blah, they happen, and you sort of gracefully move on from them, and because the next thing always happens and is around the corner, and it's very neat that way. It's the ultimate sort of dramedy, to use that kind of lame classification, but fits.
And it gives us
it's very funny, but it's hard to completely call it a comedy because it doesn't it feels the film feels no pressure to keep delivering on the comedy front when it isn't. It's still working great, and it's this great mix, I like it.
And it gives us the iconic song Santa's Super Sleigh.
The song within the show, the movie, it's pretty cool.
It is, that is the song that his father wrote, so that
when it's playing at the grocery store.
When it's playing at the grocery, so great. All right, so let us move on.
He's talking about how much he hates it, and Nick and the kid's like, wait a minute, no, that's pretty good actually. It's funny. It's hard to write a song that endures, but a lot of people, stories follow this guy's story where, you write the one thing, you spend the rest of your life like chasing after that. And you might write a bunch of great songs, but there's also Nick Hornby knows his music truly. And the film demonstrates that. He tells that story in a very neat way, and also, uses it again, has great metaphorical value that I think is kind of neat. So,
it's About a Boy. It's great. If you haven't seen it, it's and it was up for some Academy Awards, some other awards. I don't believe it won anything, but it was up for like screenplay and some other stuff. So yeah, it's a wonderful little film for the holidays or any other time. All right, moving on to this is a hard segue to make. It's hard to go from About a Boy to we're gonna talk about Another Boy.
They have some similarities actually.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. Yeah, they're pretty much each man is an island. The next guy we're gonna talk about is Bob Saganowski from the movie The Drop.
The Drop's trivia is that it was the last film released with James Gandolfini in it. And it wasn't a big hit or anything, but it wasn't a big bomb or anything. It clearly doesn't cost very much, but it's got a lot of very popular people for the day and still rather kind of hot ticket names in it. It's not a Christmas movie. It does take place during the holidays from about the day after Christmas-ish until the Super Bowl, I guess, is the time period of the thing. So it's the end of December, January, snowy, icy type film. But it's a crime drama. And we won't talk much about the crime stuff because that's the least interesting stuff in the movie, but it's still the stuff that the movie follows the crime drama template. And you just want to be aware that, so you're not, I'm not going to ruin any of the surprises, but so that you're not shocked by the violence or the implied, the threatening that's very, very real that goes on through it, that sort of thing. These are all kind of low life characters, all of them really, every single one of them. That's part of the appeal, it shows you that even these low level crime guys, money laundering guys, they ended up being, and they all have a rather complex backstory that reveals itself throughout the film. But they're just kind of guys too in this very sad way. The film stars, as it were, Tom Hardy. I think you guys could disagree or agree with, but I just love this performance by Tom. It's something about it. I'm not sure what it is, but I just really, really like it. I can see why he thought it was appealing to him, and I like it. And I always super like when Noomi Rapace shows up and stuff, and I think she's great in it too. Gandolfini's great, and who's the other person? Matthias, the Danish actor Matthias Schoenaerts is fantastic in it. He's not recognizable in it, honestly. I'm used to seeing him in costume dramas and stuff. He plays this really scary sort of street thug guy who's just probably, I don't want to psychoanalyze him too much because the movie uses him as a weapon, but his his villainy is clearly comes from this place of deep self-hatred and insecurity, and that makes him more human, but not in a fuzzy way. It makes him more human in a much more dangerous way, if that makes any sense. And I thought he was super effective. And the other guy, who's the guy who plays the cop that they go to the same church? I loved him.
Yeah,
he's always good from The Office.
John Ortiz.
John Ortiz, who literally his screen credits are, because he's played just weird guys and just goofy nonsense all the way to real heavy stuff and, you know, really harsh dramas and stuff. And he can do it all. He's one of Hollywood's great utility players. And this cop that he plays in this is a tricky dude and has a lot of substance to it. So it's a story of this bar that is owned by the Chechen, I believe I said that correctly, mob.
Chechen.
No,
Chechen. Yeah, I guess.
Not Chechenian.
Chechen.
You don't call people from Ireland Irelandians.
This is a quote from the movie.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
All good mob movies have great mob dialogue, and that scene is fantastic. It's really, really fantastic. I love it. Chechen. So anyway, they're super bad guys. I'm sorry, Chechnya and Chechens, but for Hollywood purposes, you are just pure evil. And well, I've never seen a good movie about one.
Yeah, there's very few. And we gotta keep at it. The Chechens have to continue to be evil, so eventually we can get the movie about the Chechen that the Chechen that everyone thinks is evil, but is really a good guy. We have to. Right. We're not quite at that point yet. We're still right in the Chechens as thugs. We're rich into that vein.
But these old style sort of Italian, I don't know what they're, sort of a mixed Italian, Irish, New York family have been reduced to, because of various story mechanisms they explain throughout. They just run this bar, a bar they used to own. They used to be low-level actual crime bosses. Now they're just glorified bar managers. The bar still has James Gandolfini's name on it, but it's not his anymore. There's this sense of failure and the way people deal with their own faults and failures. Like you see, the movie provides you with several different examples of it, and the way Gandolfini's deals with it, in a way, it almost should have worked, but it doesn't. He's like this Greek character who's just cursed and knows it and expresses it in all these horrible ways. Gandolfini's fantastic, and he's just so good in roles like this. I don't think he wanted, he was really good at just playing mean bad guys, and he was really good at this or that. But the guys he played late in his career, and he's still a young man when he was taken from us, but relatively, the roles he played, there were these dudes who, there's this guy, and without going too off track, but he plays this assassin character in this other film that came out around the same time, where he shows up and he's all sort of bravado and false bravado as this assassin who's been killing all these people. And he doesn't fail. He fails in this clumsy, sad way. He doesn't decide he doesn't want to. It's not like a Chow Yun-Fat action movie where he has to kill somebody and he just is tortured by it and changes his mind at the last second. Like, he hangs out in his hotel room. He plays video games. He procrastinates. He doesn't show up for the first time he's supposed to kill the person. And then he sort of, the guy who's been hired to replace him finds him in a bar and actually gets him to leave town so that there isn't any mess ups. It's just sad and pathetic. And I think it's weird that James was drawn to these types of guys. This guy, I can't tell his story in a neat nutshell because I feel like it would ruin too much of what you find out during the movie, but he's sad. And I got to say, Tom Hardy's character feels pretty sad too. But there's real danger involved, that not a lot of money was stolen. But this bar is a drop house, and they never know how much money they're going to have there. It's not just the night's take. These Chechen gangsters are pissed that however many hundreds of bucks or thousands of dollars were stolen. But the reality is, as a drop point, and this is where the term "the drop" comes from, it's it's one of those great simple titles that has several meanings, but that place could have had hundreds of thousands of dollars in it, or at least 50,000, like a lot of money that would be missed. And the fact that it got hit in a robbery is a big deal to everybody. It puts a lot of pressure on everybody, gets people sniffing around where you don't want. I guess, but the inciting, so that feels like the traditional inciting incident. But in my mind, the soul of the thing, the real inciting incident is when Hardy's character is walking home, he hears a dog crying. And he looks around for it, and he finds this. Is it a pit bull?
Yeah, it's a little pit puppy.
He finds a puppy, a pit bull pup in a garbage can that's clearly, he's chewed up a little bit, and he's clearly been abused somewhat. And his custodialship of the puppy leads him to all these sort of different places that he wouldn't have explored on his own, left to his own devices, because he's got some ghosts he's trying to exorcise as well. And he's doing it the old fashioned way, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Chime in, you guys. What do you think? The drop.
If I may,
Yeah.
I love Tom Hardy's and his character, what he did with the character in this. And I think I really, I really like him as an actor, but in this movie, his performance is so quiet that you almost don't realize how good it is. And for me, in the beginning of the movie, he presents himself as a very simple person, to the point you're wondering, is he maybe a lower IQ level? Really, just the way he talks and the way, and slow, but very simple, how he
Very
talks.
deliberate communicator. Yeah.
Very straightforward, to the point that it almost seems simple.
Mm-hmm.
And but as you go through this, and he finds the dog, and the dog had been beaten really quite bad. That's a hard part to watch. It's very sad. As a dog lover, it's very difficult to watch, but you can do it. I got through it. But then you see him really start to care about the dog, and his relationship with the dog grows. And through the dog, he meets a woman, and, a romantic interest in that grows. And so where you're thinking this guy is very simple, you're starting to see these other relationships, and you're like, wait a minute, this is deeper than I would have thought this guy would experience something. So, but he still, for the most part, acts very simple and speaks very simple, straight, truthfully, and you don't really think he could be a bad person. And then you start learning a little bit about his past, and, his connection to people, and who he knows, and what's happened in the past. And you realize there's so much more to this character than you ever would have thought. And it's the beauty of Tom Hardy's performance. It's very quiet, and it just builds.
Well, and I think it's very, just to interject briefly, but I think it's on the page how cleverly the film reveals these people to you, where the reveals come, who's talking to who when they happen. Like, it's just, it's not, these aren't surprises. It's not shocks. You're just constantly surprised by people the way you are when you get to know them in real life. That, right, to me is the magic of the way the thing flows, is you find yourself getting invested. It's an interesting enough movie that you get invested kind of right away. But, finding an abused dog, the fact that the girlfriend and the dog have the same abuser is a little convenient, but from a story standpoint, but the point is, you really do get to know them the way you get to know people in real life. I really do think the film reflects that, and watching them get to know each other, being surprised, being taken by surprise by each other, both in good ways and sometimes horrific ways. Nevertheless, not being able to dismiss those connections. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah, so it's not like a typical movie where it's like, bam, okay, this is what happened, and this is who this person is, or these are who these people are from the get-go, and you know all of this. They wove the story so intricately, and so complexly, is that a word, complexly? With great complexity. There we go.
Good save.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, we know what you.
That it was very quiet and very deep, and you couldn't do that without excellent actors across the board. I love Noomi Rapace. Is that how you say her name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, the only American that really starred as a big role in this was James Gandolfini.
Gandolfini, right? They're all, yeah, exactly. They all play New Yorkers, but they're all from very exotic places, which I think is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it just, the acting in this movie, I thought, was really amazing.
Yeah.
It's a joy that way. It's a little movie for a crime drama / whatever you want to call it, holiday romance movie. But it has that quality to it. The great performances, playing really great, interesting characters. It's also based on a book that I haven't read, but is by a pretty renowned author, I believe.
Yeah, a nice little short story.
Story. That makes more sense.
Short story called Animal Rescue, written by Dennis Lehane, who also wrote the screen. He also wrote the screenplay.
Nice. Well, he's in this case. This can go wrong. This can make a movie boring. But sometimes when you take a short story and expand it into a movie, you really get to have it all. You get to have this sort of expanded story plus this extra characters that live a little bit longer in your presence, without having to ruthlessly cut stuff out to get something within 2 hours. It can sometimes be boring. Sometimes a short story is a short story because the value of things about a 25-minute thing, you stretch it out and you're left with something that doesn't have a lot of taste left in it. But this film, it worked out great. The nuances and the quiet character moments are as good, if not better, than the big dramatic moments. And
I want to actually read the short story now for that reason.
Well, Animal Rescue too. That would have been a great title for the film, honestly, even though.
Yeah. Also kind of, you look at that, Animal Rescue. So what is this about? The Drop, they named it The Drop. It's a crime thing. The book, The Animal Rescue, it's about the dog. It's also romance. It's also this, it's also that. And I think that's almost why the short story didn't get boring, is that it is their performance and how that goes. It's not, okay, we have to get this done. It's the story.
Well, Lehane, you can read some of his other works if you can click on it. I mean, he's written a lot of these movies that we really, really love that are in this style, and it's not surprising that his characters are very vivid because that's where his stuff lives and breathes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that he did Mystic River, Gone Baby Gone, Shutter Island.
It's a really good writer from a character standpoint, in my opinion.
Yep. So, I gotta say, I mean, this is a very good movie that I did not like. I mean, it's fine. I'm not a big crime drama fan. It's just not a genre of movie that I get excited for. I'll watch them, and I recognize that this is a good film. But again, these are all not very nice characters. These are not nice people. These are not, they're all violently flawed, and that's fine. And there is humanity in that. Tom Hardy, but like I said, it's a good movie. I did, it's really, I emotionally, and maybe it's just the moment, the day that I watched it, but every time Matthias, or what is his character name, Deeds or something like that, every time he was like, "It's a nice dog you got there." "Oh, that's a nice dog." Every time he talked, I was like, it gave me the creeps, and I almost wanted to just fast forward till he's off the screen, which is probably a good, it's actually maybe an indicator of how good and effective
reaction to that character.
But a couple things though that I wanted to mention about it is, it's Tom Hardy, yeah. I mean, I think the people who, there was a brief period of time when Tom Hardy was, like when he was in Batman as Bane, and when he was doing, and there was a couple movies that he was in where he was always in a mask or wearing something, and and there was some criticism as to what kind of actor he was, or can he actually do. I think that ship has sailed. I think we all know that Tom Hardy is a damn fine actor, and I think one of my favorite elements of this, and this goes to director Mikhail Roscom. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but and Dennis Lehane on the page. It's and the other actors in it. Like you guys talked about, it's a very quiet performance. It's very small. It's very understated. Like you said, Shauna, he is deliberately living a simple life to the point where, as an outsider watching this, you're like, is he a simpleton? Does he have some neurological challenges or whatever? But there's these little moments where other characters are reacting to him, or other actors are watching him, Gandolfini especially, and you're just like, there's something underneath, like there's something they know that we don't.
Well, and Gandolfini is really brilliant in this aspect of the movie, because he, on the page, all he does is berate him and order him around rather ruthlessly. And because this is the one guy who's worth a damn. His sister, I think, to another degree, with those scenes are pretty effective as well. But the heart of the thing is between these two guys, where he's just the guy that he can order around. He can take the Christmas decorations down like the day after Christmas. Yeah. Which is just great. That's just a great economical way for you to understand where that guy's coming from. Hey, it's December 27th, take all the Santas and crap down or whatever. It's, and Hardy's kind of just goes about doing it. But you're right. There's more there, though. There's
always these little moments, and like
more there.
And like in the scene, and I'm not ruining anything because we've already mentioned that, the bar gets held up. There's this moment in there, and the way Gandolfini, there's this, look, you don't know whose money this is, and blah blah blah. What are you doing? And also, but he keeps looking at Hardy, at Tom Hardy, at Bob, like there, and that was and I was like, there's something, there's something that this dude knows that we don't. And that was intriguing to me. And that, that I thought that was a great little element. And the one last thing that I wanted to mention, this was, it's the only time I've ever seen it, and probably the only time it would maybe ever really fully apply, but the nasal acting of James Gandolfini was used so wonderfully as we get towards the climax of the scene of the movie.
It is second only to one other performance. Since you brought up the nasal acting, it is second only to John Malkovich in Jennifer 8, who has the best nasal acting scene in the history of film. So if we're going to just talk about that category, which does not come up very often, I just want to give a quick shout out to John.
But James Gandolfini,
who has to do a clever interrogation scene while having the worst cold imaginable. It should be funny, but it isn't because it's so real. Yeah, I agree with you, James. There's
some scenes where people are not on. There's some POV shots and some other things, but you get that classic Gandolfini in the way his nasal passages breathe, and how the way his face is shaped. It's almost like a pug. It's almost like a dog, where where the way the shape of the face, you just that breathing, and it could be nobody else breathing, and it's really effectively done, and it helps create this tension at this point in the movie. And I just watched it going, you can't do that. You might not be able to do that with any other actor but James Gandolfini.
Maybe not
in that, or you just have to do. You certainly wouldn't be able to conceive of a scene going, well, what if we just do it this way, but you hear Gandolfini breathing in the background, so you know that it's, so Marv is there.
It's an extraordinary performance by him. It's a very familiar character he's playing, and yet it really is. It's some version of the same guy he always plays. But it is its own thing, and in a really wonderful way that comes to life on screen. And great, I agree. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. And there's a saying. It's not really a holiday movie, other than it does start really with the decorations being taken down. To me, that's just even if you like the holidays, that's a sad moment where you got to take them down. It's a chore. Putting them up is fun. Taking them down is sad, and it's over, and your place is less sparkly after you do it. And but to do it, it's not even New Year's yet. It's like 2 days after Christmas. So it's just for no reason. Yeah. There's a saying though that you hear, you see it in memes a lot. Like if you want to, you see it in terms of dating, which this actually applies to this movie. So I'll actually say it in its most cliched way, but it's like, ladies, if you want to see how a guy's going to treat you, watch how he treats your pet. Watch how he treats your dog, and you'll get, you clearly you can't get the whole picture from that. The film goes on to prove that, but maybe that's the thing that's most important about them, and it's why the name of the short story is so awesome, because that's where this guy should be in a more fair world. You know what I mean? That's rescuing dogs is what he should be doing in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I loved it. Well, you could argue that he is an animal in need of rescuing as well.
I was going to say that too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have let you. I should have let you as our guests. I should have let you have that awesomeness. I got caught up in my beard, stroking the condescension.
I was going to say I appreciated the theatrical performance. I wouldn't have done that quite so effectively. But Animal Rescue, he's basically keeping himself in purgatory, by deliberately by, I did this so many years ago and I did it and I have to live with it. And so I'm going to have the most simple life and try not to do anything bad again, not be put into a situation where I do anything bad, don't have relationships, so I don't do anything bad. And the dog got rescued, but he got rescued too. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Animal rescue. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's it is. It's like you said, it's a small movie. Like Ryan said, it's a small movie. Yeah. Small budget, only, and it made back its money and then some. It turned a profit, but it was a small movie. It's still a movie that the vast majority of people have never even heard of, and it is worth checking out. It's especially if you like crime dramas, if that's a genre film you do get excited about. It's hard to recommend it to people who like romances, even if that is an important part of it. Which it really is a crime drama, mm-hmm. and it really just does prove the point. Yeah, that if you think you've seen them all, this one does some things that are different, new, that are really pretty cool. Very good point. That's a very good point. All right, so we've had these two men who, for whatever reason, made decisions that their life would be better if they were unencumbered and isolated and stayed an island, as we have mentioned before. Our third and final film of the Movie Club Christmas has a woman who has decided, for various reasons, that she needs to be living a lifestyle of very isolated, very, very closed off, very unattached. And that is, in this case, reasons that were thrust upon her. Right. Magical reasons that defy reason. And that is 2015's The Age of Adeline. And let's see, we have Blake Lively and Michael Huisman, Kathy Baker, Ellen Burstyn, and then with a newcomer named Harrison Ford. So
and a kid they plucked off the internet that looks exactly like he did when he was in his 20s.
And
It's almost uncanny.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So Age of Adeline. As you said, for magic, it is this one is I like that this description that I see here is it describes it as a romantic fantasy film.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty accurate.
I would never have thrust a romantic comedy upon Shauna, but I thought romantic fantasy, it really does have a lot of cheesy romance novelness to it. I won't lie, but it's got something more. So it's kind of like our last movie in a way. There's a formula here, but I thought there's some surprises and some interesting things throughout. Who wants to do the setup one? I'm getting a little sick of the sound of my
There we go,
voice.
Shauna.
So I'm going to carefully trip along an explanation of the movie, of the plot, because there are things that will spoil it. So I'm going to try to be careful about that and be pretty high level. So this is a story about Blake Lively's character Adeline, who at the age of 29 got into a car accident. And
a snowy one.
Yeah, a snowy one. Can I just tell a little bit again what happened with that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think you have to. I mean, I think you have to say what this movie is and its premise, or you can't really talk about it.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, she got into this car accident, and at the same time, the car was struck by lightning, which created some scientific, with a lot of fake scientific mumbo jumbo, explaining that we won't know what really happened until like the year 2032 or something like that.
You're looking forward to that.
Right. I'm waiting for the day. So, so when that happened, it caused her to stop aging. So she spent 80 years living the age of 29. And she had a daughter prior to the accident. So during that time, the daughter ages, and the daughter is really the only person that she's close to at all. It sounds like, lives for a period of time that it would be believable that she looks that old, and then she packs up camp and moves constantly, basically to avoid becoming a curiosity and becoming, famous to everybody.
Or worse, becoming a science experiment.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a romance, and it tells, the story is about how she finally meets a man that she grows to love, I guess, enough that she's considering to stop her life and stop it right there. So we can kind of go from there, because I want to be careful not to say anything more. It's really hard, because when you tell who some of the characters are, that will spoil it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you guys decide how far we're going to go into that discussion.
There's just the reason this movie's on this list is there's one of my favorite. There's a handful of really good ones. From Harry Met Sally has one. This is just one of my favorite New Year's sequences in it, in all of movies. It's just something about it. First of all, Age of Adeline is a beautiful movie. It's just this beautiful, warmly lit, picturesque, detailed thing. This old, it takes place in the present day, but this old hotel that she spends New Year's in, where she meets this guy, the guy who sort of recomplicates her life again. The whole sequence is just glorious, just like a movie. It's like a cinematographer's dream, I think. I mean, I just really think it's a beautiful film. Even though even though the idea is pretty corny, I think these actors do a really, really good job wrestling it. The scenes in particular with Blake Lively, I've always sang her praises, and she's a big reason why I like this. I can't remember who. They cast somebody else in this originally, and then she kind of had to come in at the last second. Not totally last second, but she wasn't Hollywood's first choice to carry a movie, because Blake doesn't exactly open movies, even though I think she really does a really, really good job in roles like these. But that relationship and why I thought Shauna might like, is that relationship between mother and daughter in this film is really vivid and real and cool. And yet it's just really weird because it's reversed physically and from what you see, and even a little bit emotionally. Imagine, even though you've lived the life and have the wisdom of a 90-year-old or whatever, you still, your daughter is still aging and reaching the end of her life right in front of you while you still look 29. And the way they interact, I think is really, really interesting as a result of that. That all happens kind of early in the film for the most part. I think the guy, there's an aspect that Joel, I'm sure, noticed this. We might have too, Shauna, but there's an aspect that the guy is this sort of, he gets sort of gobsmacked by her. Huseman, Michael, or I don't know if it's Michael, spelled Michael. He's a Dutch actor. You guys know him from Game of Thrones, probably primarily, but he's in all kinds of stuff. He's utilized in this role, what I call the reverse pixie dream girl role. You know, in an older movie, this would be about a guy, and this magical woman would come along that would change everything for them. It's hard to find a guy who could do that in reverse. Most guy movie stars aren't good at knowing their place in a story that's secondary to a female. This is a hard balance that you have to strike. He's a little annoying in that he falls in love at first sight to some degree, and she is determined. She believes it is impossible for her to have a relationship with somebody. It's not just that she doesn't want to go through the pain of losing people, which she's had this long life of doing. She's lost more people generationally than we all have because she's lived longer. But he's like, I don't know, he's this old school kind of Mr. Persistent, right? Like he should back off at some point in the story. And the story doesn't work if he does. So he's hung out there a little bit. It's my least favorite part of it. Once our characters get beyond that, I think it comes back to life a little bit, but that is a tough part of Age of Adeline.
Yeah,
toughest for me anyway.
It was impossible for me. I
get past that.
I could not get past it. I mean, yeah, I recognize that it's necessary for that, for the third act to happen, and the third act is pretty darn fun. It's pretty.
Yeah, I agree.
It's got some good excitement. It's got some good drama, and but this dude was gross. Ellis is gross.
I think by the way we view things, I mean, again, character is not, we've seen him hundreds, thousands of even times in films. And we're taught even as kids that you just never give up on your dream or all this,
Yeah. But again, he's, he is total, smitten with her and everything, but it's gross. He, his like, I'm going to donate to these rare books. But I'm not, if you won't let me take your picture, well then I'll just take my books and go. I'm gonna, well then let me take you out to dinner. No, well then I guess I'll just take all these rare things that will make that will make your job great. And go, and it's like, you're gross. Leave, dude. And then he goes to, he's like, and then she like, there's another dog. There's a little dog plot in here, and it's wonderfully done. And of course, like literally every time she walks into her apartment, her phone is ringing because this dude is stalking her. And then finally she's out on the street trying to just clear her head after some sadness, and there he is, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, how did you find my address? Well, I got it from the library. It's like, dude, you're creepy. Go away. Does this movie have source material as well? Is it based on a book? It sure feels like it is. Let me see here. I'm not seeing anything based on but nope. Yeah, it was gross. And it made it impossible for me to the whole thing just made me smarter movie that was more in step with how we react to each other these days, and just how we should be as people.
would have softened that greatly, would have brought them together more by circumstance rather than his dogged persistence, which goes way too far. Joel is right. I mean, there's no question about
it goes way too far, and also it go like you said. This is your definition of manic pixie dream girl thing, but in reverse. It's sort of reverse. Yet the guy still feels like she's a possession. Like the guy still feels like he can possess her, and that was gross. And
it's not really in evidence, but it does feel that way. I agree. The movie makes you feel that.
And that's what the problem of the third act for me was too. And there's lots of interesting things that happen in the third act, but one of the complications that happens in that third act, again, it feels like, but that this was something that was mine. She was mine, and it was like, come on, man, no.
I never thought of that, but you're right. I forgot. He more or less says that out loud.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so
Michael Huseman.
That was a bridge too far for me. Again, Ryan, you're right about everything. It's beautifully shot. Blake Lively, I guess I haven't. The only thing maybe I've seen with Blake Lively in it is the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
No, you've seen The Town. Remember her in The Town?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, I'll give it. Yeah.
Well, think of what this character is and what that character is, and you get this sense of really what she's capable of.
Right.
The skank she plays in The Town is the saddest, sort of most pathetic thing that you can imagine, and she really plays the ugliness of that without losing track of that character's humanity. In this, she's playing this glamorous.
Yeah,
kind of beautiful. The camera loves her, and yet she still has to bring some real vulnerability and for it to be interesting at all. And I think she does a pretty great job.
And I think I think she was. I think what I because I liked her, but there was something that was as I was watching it going, boy, it's something's not off isn't even the right word. It's just something, and I'm halfway through, I'm like, I think it's that there's this element of she's trying to make, she's a product of like of the 1920s, essentially, is when she would have come to, become a person. Yeah. I believe her character was born in 1908.
Did you buy in, Shauna, to her character at all? Not really.
I didn't like this movie, and it was because of Blake Lively. I thought she was flat. I thought she was really, really flat. I think that, sorry to come down hard on her, I like her, Blake Lively, and I like her in other things, but this relied so much on beauty. I love the cinematography, but it was with her too. She's beautiful, no doubt, but she's flat. There's absolutely nothing interesting about her, really, as a person, that a guy would fall in love that hard with.
Or wouldn't be able to take a no from an answer for it. That is a good point.
Even, I agree with Joel on that, but even besides that, what was so darn exciting about her that people just, guys loved her immediately? Because she was unattainable and she was beautiful. I found her really mopey.
That is all it takes sometimes for guys. We are pretty stupid.
Well, I am not disputing that at all, but I have to say you do have some brains. I would hope you would not, I don't know. It just, watching her act, I almost couldn't finish the film. And just, this unrelentless after her, and she's just mopey, and her voice, and when she would talk to her daughter, and her daughter would call her, "Hi, honey." I mean, you're talking to your daughter. I get it. You're older than she is, but now she's older than you are, but she's not 5. Right. Talking to her like she's 5. Everything about her voice and her mannerisms really felt completely flat with me. And I mean, I guess it's an interesting enough storyline, but
But a couple of deal breakers in there to not really make it very good. Well,
and to piggyback on what you're saying, Shauna, I mean, because like I maybe it's flat, maybe that flatness is what I was feeling too. Whatever it is,
the term I would use is aloof, which she really is. I mean, I think there's an effort to make her that way, not just by the actor, but definitely by the actor. Is an aloofness, and she is always sort of performing for people, so you're not dealing with a person who's very honest, or I sort of get that. So that's definitely what's going on.
And so she it's oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh crap.
Sorry, Joe.
About that.
Flatness. We were talking about her being from a different era, is how you described it.
Yeah.
The parts that are supposed to be throwing lightning, she wasn't real during those parts. It just, the same kind of flatness followed through. It wasn't like okay, she's really aloof and all of that. I don't know. I don't know.
So the movie, as Ryan mentioned, originally it was Katherine Heigl, and then actually after Katherine Heigl dropped out, it was offered to Natalie Portman. And I now, when we're talking about that, I'm curious as to that to me I would have been curious to see what an actor with the toolbox of Natalie Portman would have done with it. Right. And we know that Natalie Portman can carry a film. I think that's an element here that maybe Blake Lively is not someone who can shoulder or at least in this material maybe isn't someone that can maybe she's best in a supporting role of some kind, or or it's something where she doesn't have to shoulder the entire burden of a film herself.
Well, you definitely feel her let loose in those supporting roles. I mean, in a way that on her TV show and other places, which she really doesn't. So that there's something, but I think there's something true to that of all actors. I think if you give them the chewier, got to make an impression quicker, are obstacle for the hero type of characters, they all tend to hit it running a little bit more, but you're not, I don't think you're wrong about that.
It goes to how she was directed as well,
well, the film, like I say, the camera really is doing all the work. It is a beautiful movie, but maybe that's not enough. I mean, or at least at a certain point, that's not enough. If there isn't some sort of, like you say, evolution to her tone or whatever. I didn't mind I mean, I like Blake a lot. I liked her in this because she is playing this very careful, very reserved, very held back person, and I felt like that's there happening. I didn't get that she was flat, but I do respect the idea that that somewhere along the line you got to kind of grow out of that. The movie doesn't really require her to, and she doesn't really do it. We see those characters in the drop
right
reveal themselves to us. That's an extremely satisfying thing even in a sad story, or even when bad things happen. It's a very satisfying thing cinematically, whereas this is a very staid and formal and reserved and pretty thing, like a ceremony of a film. And
I don't feel like Adeline ever really reveals herself to us.
Right.
And
we only see episodically what it's been like for her, what she's been going through. Mm-hmm. It really does. We see the origin incident, which is kind of an amazingly cool looking sequence. It gets the movie off to a good start. And we get these episodic little breaks in time where we see her starting to get revealed, her starting to understand what her nature is and stuff. Those are more interesting than juggling the relationships that come later in the film, I guess.
We talked during about voiceovers. This movie has voiceovers throughout as well. Do we? The voiceovers bothered me.
Those they didn't me, because I thought they had some sort of interesting poetry to it, and because the guy had some perspective on it, I guess, but I'm with you. This is a voice of God style voiceover. Think of a more famous movie would be The Book Thief, which turns out to, spoiler alert for The Book Thief, but I'm taking a break so you can mute me or something, but it turns out is the voice of God, which is one of the most cloying, stupid things in all the movies. But this is that. It's in that style. It's a narrator who's and it's musing on things, and it is kind of. I don't mind it because a lot of movies have that, but that's a very old-fashioned thing too. It's a very old-fashioned film.
And to me, I guess I don't. I did not see this. To me, it did not. Aside from what you said, there was some interesting prose in there. The way it was written and the description of the quote unquote science of it.
Could you lift it out of there and have it not change the story at all? Because we would find out along with her eventually. Yeah, it's a good point. That might have created the interest that the voiceover makes unnecessary, I guess.
Yeah, so so think about the very last. Let's think about the very last time you see Blake Lively in this film, what she's doing, what she's holding in her hand, without spoiling anything, and the realization that she makes at the very end of the film about herself. And what if it just went to black there? And instead we get this extended voiceover explaining to us what has happened. And I'm like, no, you lost this. You lost a really wonderful little moment by Blake Lively of this great little reaction to what she's discovered about herself. And so again, we've
said it before. The lesson is, if you can do your movie without a voiceover, do it without the voiceover. Maybe you can't, fair enough. But if you can, if you at least at some point try getting rid of it, see what happens. It's a good lesson that this film sort of maybe demonstrates more than most.
Yeah, I also think with the voiceover, sometimes, the less intrusive they are, they're not quite as bad, but the scientific explaining about the end event was too much. 900 volts of blah, 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 and science. It's like, this isn't even true science. You don't need all these details. You're totally taking away from the best scene she had at the end.
It's why it feels like a book to me, because I really feel like that stuff is what you would find in a book, and in a book it'd be great.
If you know what just occurred to me, and this movie was what, 2015. When was, it reminded me of the voiceover. Do you guys remember the TV show Pushing Daisies with Lee Pace and stuff like that? And it had Jim Dale doing voiceover, and I only know that because Jim Dale did all the audiobooks of Harry Potter in America here. And it was, and again, it was this omnipotent narrator, or omniscient, whatever it's called. Omniscient
Pushing Daisies
narrator.
is 6-7 years earlier. So
so it felt like it felt that tone, that style of a clever narrator that is, the tone of it is very is a very matter of fact, and this is what happened, and it's not, and this is just how, almost, again, like you said, makes it feel like a book, makes it feel like a bedtime story. And maybe that's the tone they were going for.
I'm sure that it was not a mistake, but I say, whether that's welcome or not is another matter.
It felt incongruent with the movie.
Yeah.
For me.
So Age of Adeline, there's some, it's not a movie without without any redeeming qualities. There's like
even the parts that are objectionable you can cope with it, but it really is a lovely, like, romance with a capital R, like, truly it's a heavy-handed film. But
if you can get past the creepiness of how they initially get together, which I could not, but clearly
of the extortion and blackmail involved in him actually getting her to go out on a date. Guys, those days are over. Those days are over. You got a bold gesture in you, then my hat's off to you, but that's it. You take your shot, and then acceptance and respect.
And
fall back on those things. You can react in the privacy of your home. Believe me, I've been there. However you want. Your actions around other people are what you're going to be remembered for. And you can't go wrong with acceptance and respect. That's my little
correct. Tip of the day. And don't make your, don't shoot your last shot with, and then come to my apartment for dinner.
Yeah, but it turns out okay, whatever.
Anyway,
you're right.
Okay, so let's palate cleanse here. Let's cleanse our palate here of Ellis and
quick,
yeah,
Joe?
please.
The last thing about Age of Adeline, we couldn't talk about the biggest thing that happens. It would totally spoil it.
The biggest coincidence that happens, is that what you mean?
Right. And it is, if you enjoy this movie for reasons that, we didn't enjoy it, but whatever, you might really like that and find it interesting. It's a big plot point that we had to dance around, but we didn't address that. It is, it's important.
It's one of the more rewarding areas of the movie, honestly. It's where the movie really recaptures its human element in a lovely way. And it's nice. Like it's contrived, but it is nice. Yeah.
And there's the third act
until the "it was mine" speech comes, and then it gets ruined again, I guess.
But
I forgot all about that. That is too bad. That is too bad, because if you could have moved beyond the cliche of the guy never giving up and not had that sort of tone come back into the movie, you might have been way better off. I forgot all about that. I wanted this for me. Really, awful. I guess I've seen these kind of films so many times that I'm like, oh, it's this kind of movie, and I just kind of roll with it. It wants to make you feel warm and romantic and amazed and whatever, and so I'm like, okay, I'll give it the benefit of it.
And it's two gorgeous people being romantic. They're two just stunning people to look at. So these were three films that had Christmas or holiday elements to them, but certainly were not Christmas films. Ryan was nice enough to give us another little homework assignment. Ryan's got some Ryan's got an extra light
sun rays coming in on my face.
A light filter coming in. If you do that, if you lean forward a little bit, it gives you a light, or not, maybe just tip your head. There it is. You got a little Gorbachev going with a light on your forehead. But
we will bury you. Oh, that's Khrushchev. Sorry.
That's Khrushchev. I like to always say, like, the unheard quote of Gorbachev would have been like, okay, I'll tear down the wall. Fine.
Whatever.
I have no problem with that. But we wanted to talk about what, like, some of our favorite Christmas moments are in film. They can be from a non-Christmas film. I actually approached it from what my favorite Christmas moments in non-Christmas films.
That's kind of how I posed the question, but it can be. I limited it, but it could be from a Christmas film too. Really, it's what are those big holiday moments? There's a few that I really dig too. What one came to mind, Joel? You had it on the tip of your tongue.
Sure, yeah. Mine were. I had three actually that came that popped up as I thought about it. The one of my favorites is the first time Harry gets a gift for Christmas in the first Harry Potter movie. I thought it was.
When was that?
This was Harry Potter.
Oh, that was in the very first Harry Potter movie when he's stuck there and the Weasleys sent something along for him, right?
He gets a sweater with an H on it, and that was knit by that was knit by Ron's mom, and it's like. And in his, like, I've never gotten, that moment. It's a really lovely moment, well executed by Daniel Radcliffe, and it's just a little joyous moment of this kid who has been, we talked about, when we've talked about the Harry Potter films, that wish fulfillment of discovering you're a wizard and all these magical things open for you, and this is a slightly more grounded moment. but no less magical.
There's a great moment in the library where she says, she's only interested in you because she thinks you're the chosen one. And he goes,
yeah,
but I am the chosen.
yeah.
And Hermione slaps him on the head with
yeah. But the other moment that is one of my favorite moments is the Christmas scene in Better Off Dead, where John Cusack's character Lane is getting TV dinners for every single present because he expressed one time how much he liked getting corn in seasoned salt. And so literally they just get him TV dinners for Christmas, and John Cusack's great deadpan John Cusack, just dead face, just like and I can never remember the woman who plays his mother in that movie, just going,
no, but
she makes an impression. I remember you saying you liked corn and seasoned salt, and so yeah, that's a joke that I literally make every year at Christmas, is going, oh, I hope this is a TV dinner. Yeah, I hope this is corn and seasoned salt. But my favorite Christmas moment, because it's actually a recurring thing that happens throughout this movie, in a non-Christmas movie, is in the movie Catch Me If You Can. Every time Frank calls, every time Leonardo DiCaprio's character calls Tom Hanks's character to talk on Christmas, and then also the time when leading up to the time when Frank goes to his mother's house and is watching Christmas through the window and then is recaptured by the police. It's beautiful and heartbreaking, and just it has always been something that just stays with me for some. I remember the first time I saw that movie, that was him looking through the window and seeing the Christmas scene that was going on inside. It was this really lovely moment, and I think that I would say that is my that's my favorite Christmas moment from a non-Christmas film.
Yeah, and it's set up, like you say, that it happens incrementally. Mm-hmm. So all of the moments are wonderful, and that it builds to this thing. It's yeah. Catch Me If You Can is spectacularly good filmmaking for sure.
Yep. Shauna, what about you?
Sorry, you can see my husband just got home with the groceries.
Yeah.
Yay, good groceries! Woohoo! Yep.
Dinner is really a big deal around here. We're having a clam bake tonight. So.
Nice.
Yep.
So, this was a real nice clam bake. I used to know the lyrics to that
That's musical
song.
Theater joke. It's okay that you didn't get that.
Okay, thanks, guys.
No worries.
So,
but it would be nice if you played This Was a Real Fine Clam Bake, which I believe is the name of the song. Fine clam bake, yeah. Like on YouTube or something after you have yours tonight. It'll be a great way to cap it off.
So my favorite Christmas movie is Bad Santa. I think I said this last year. Mm-hmm. And for all of its inappropriateness, there's really a good message there, which I love. And I think my favorite scene is when Billy Bob Thornton's character is in the middle of this heist, and he is getting the elephant for the boy. The end there and the relationship between Santa and the boy, and Mrs. Santa's sister. It's people, like we've talked about today, people not living a very good version of their lives, but still found each other, and there's that's kind of the feel good side of the drop.
Yeah, there's hope in that. There's hope at the end.
Yeah, and
the movie doesn't even show you the hope, but it shows you somebody else seeing it come alive in their eyes, which is the more powerful choice, and is very, very cool. So I like that.
Yeah. So
Well, my favorite, I'll keep this short so the clam bake can commence, but my favorite holiday sequence in a movie, or it's maybe not my favorite, but a favorite that I love every time without question, and it's not a moment, it's a sequence, but it's the Yule Ball in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Holy that! And the reason I love it's not so much that it's holiday related, it's the school dance aspect of it. All that teen melodrama going on amongst characters that we don't even know. That sense of what that was like is captured so beautifully and honestly in this high fantasy film in a way that I just find adorable every time I watch it. I just feel it. So I remember being that awkward and being that clueless, and you know what I mean? And it's really, really fun. And the movie that I should have picked, and if I had, we'd have had 3 winners instead of poor Age of Adeline, which got, I'm going to say a D+, maybe. Is that, are we all cool with that? Is this film that came out a few years ago called Carol. And the movie starts with Rooney Mara is working she's an aspiring photographer. The film takes place in New York, and she's working the counter at the toy section of the department store. And in the late 50s, department stores in Manhattan, and there's something about this whole sequence. Like, it's not just the moment, although the interpersonal moments between her and this woman she meets, played by Cate Blanchett, are kind of incredible and it just shows you that you can not say hardly anything and there still be something there. It doesn't have to be flat just because it's not on the page. It really is this magical thing that everyone came to collaborate on. And just that I don't want to be, we all can keep Christmas alive in our hearts and in our own ways, and God bless us all, everyone, going forward. But there is a glamour to it. There's something about that era, the era when almost every Christmas song was written, the era when the baby boomers were all children, and the train sets in the windows were these magical things, and they were these tickets to an incredible different world. And of course, Carol itself, I want to sell it as a miracle of Christmas movies. Couldn't be further from that. But there's a romantic way that these two people come together, even if their journey is harrowing and difficult and tragic. Even it's really, really neat. It's really, really neat moment. So I'll just leave it at that. There's something where all the elements are working to get you off the launching pad of what the movie ends up being. So Carol's a film I highly recommend you checking out.
Nice. All right, folks. Well, that is going to do it for the movie show with Joel and Ryan for this year. This is our final episode. We're going to take a couple weeks off for the holidays, and we'll come back in 2022. And of course, we got exciting shows already lined up for when we come back. Of course, we have the 2021 recap show, everyone's favorite. They mark it on their calendars and they make sure to listen to that.
Maybe it'll only be one show this year. Maybe it'll be two. We're going to be kicking things off a couple weeks into January with our alternate Oscars from 2020.
Yep, we'll talk.
Which started out, I thought, as a great Oscars, Joel, and then the ending of it just. Mm-hmm. One of the most awkward and terrible things in broadcast television history. It's not Steve Harvey terrible, but it's really, really bad. And that'll be fun. So I'll give you something to look forward to.
Yep. All right. So you have thoughts on Christmas. Hey, share with us your favorite Christmas moments from a non-Christmas film. And
maybe we'll do a TikTok about it.
Yeah, you know what? I promise. Here's my Christmas promise to you is I will do at least 1 or 2 TikTok posts while we are on this break. And you can reach out to us, of course, at the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on Facebook, at Ask Joel and Ryan on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And of course, you can, if you're watching this, the video feed on YouTube, like and subscribe. And of course, give us a subscribe and give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your fine podcast content. So that is going to do it for us for this week. Shauna, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
So grateful for your perspective and everything you bring to the show,
Thank
Shauna.
you for
Merry
listening to The
Christmas.
Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.
Ho, ho, ho. I'm sorry, Shauna. I should have let you talk a little bit. I never can I should have cut
You want to sign off for Christmas then in a way we didn't let you?
No, I'm good, but thank you.
Oh, I'm really sorry. And you know what would have been really nice is I would have loved to have if we would have spoiled Age of Adeline, I would have loved to have been able to say, do you think afterwards when she and Alice stayed together, like she would have been able to go like, that's not how your dad did it.